We are bringing you a selection of new funky bugs that have proven themselves in situations when other traditional flies are not getting eaten. These flies are very unorthodox, but after you try fishing these crazy creations, you too will be convinced to tie up a box for yourself. Our first fly is the squirmy worm. This is one of the variations of this effective fly pattern that has won the hearts of many anglers. The fly is tied on a size 10 shrimp hook with white flat thread. There is a medium-sized salmon-colored bead head on the front. The underbody is salmon pink floss. The body is light tin-colored squirmy leg material.
Well, good day, folks, and welcome to another segment on the bench. Today we'll start with our funky fly series. There's some flies that are a little unusual, but the fish eat them, and we'll bring that to you. First one here is going to be the squirmy worm. I'm going to tie this one with some more of the tan. This is the silicone material here, squirmy material. Kind of nasty stuff. It doesn't do what it always told. It rolls around. So we're going to get this tied on. The most important thing is not to use sharp thread. Use a flat based thread. This one's rolling down on my shank here quite bad. I gotta get it pulled up. There we go. Kind of follows the thread pressure, but I'll get that tied right down. We'll get a whip finish on that. Then we got a bead coming in here. There we go. Now this bead's coming in. It has the tapered end forward. You give that a little pull, get that little gob out of there, and then there, that's going to look all right. Now that does not have to sit perfectly on top, to be honest with you. That'll be just fine right there. I'm going to be using the shrimp larvae hooks in size 10. They've got a nice curvature to them. You can use whatever hooks you like, but it's one of my favorites for this application. I'm just going to come in here with some of this floss underneath. Kind of a nice shrimp pink floss. Come forward. It's a fluorescent 4-strand floss. And I'll just tie that off right there. Get our squirmy out of there. See, it always finds a place it's not supposed to be. It's an aggravating material to work with. It looks so very, very simple to use, and it's not. You'll find out if you're just starting to tie, it could be a little frustrating. I know I had a little trouble getting onto it, but anyway. Okay, now I'll bring in some more of the silicone rubber here. You can buy that in bulk if you like. I'll just cut that in half. Get about 2 on each strand for sure. Then I'll just come in and pinch this tail on the back here. You can actually fold it if you want. Get enough out the back. You get it folded and get it caught at the rear. I'll take some strands of the head of it. Some turns. Come forward to the back of the bead. And you can do this one looser wraps, or tighter wraps, however you want. I just keep the pressure the same, keep my finger against it so I don't lose it. Get nice, these are pretty soft turns. I'm not pulling on it very hard. And if I pull on it harder, I'll get more of the coloration popping through the bottom. I'll just show you that now. So if you want to go down, if you want to tighten it up, it just gives it a whole different effect. And you put lead under it if you want, but we do have a pretty heavy bead on there. And I'll give her 2 or 3 strands out here, but that floss shows through now. Gives a little bit more of that shrimp pink color underneath. And that's a pretty good colored worm right there. That'd be one of my favorites. Pinks are good, and here's like more earthworm colors, so forth. But the squirmy worm is a good producer. Doesn't have to come out straight. It can be as funky as you want because it's really going to move in the water. It's actually better than if it travels straight up and down anyway, because then it just folds over itself. So there it is. First bug of their funky bugs. So let's get on to the next one.
The blob is such a simplistic fly that really works well during the late summer when the fish are on Daphnia. This is about the only fly that will get you hooked up when the fish are totally keyed into this microscopic food source. Brent likes this fly tied on an owner mosquito hook size 6. There is a copper 1/8 ounce bead on the front and wrapped with 6/0 fluorescent red thread. The tail is pearl UV fibers. The body must be tied with FNF slush jelly to imitate the Daphnia.
Well, folks, here's one of the more simple patterns you'll ever find out there, but I'll tell you, it is such an effective little bug. We're going to be tying this on it's the Blob, and it'll be tied on them. I like using the owner mosquito hooks in size 6. They're a nice wide gape light wire hook, and really quite well. I've got a 1/8 copper bead on the front. You can go to colored beads, bright fluorescent orange or whatever. That's the same color as the thread I'm using here to do that. Slush jelly is really the secret sauce from the UK. A very pricey material, but it's when it's in the water, it's really, really nice, and it does a great job of imitating the Daphnia. You can use prawn, you can use safety orange. You can accent it with that a little bit, but I would say the prawn or the apricot would be my two go-to fly colors on that. And then the tail material, I'm just going to use some Ice Wing Pearl UV. Just give it a little bit of an accent out the back. We'll get our thread on my bobbin done right, and we can start. Okay, we'll dress the shank like we always do. Come to the tail here. Let's bring in a little pinch of our UV pearl, and just kind of tip that off a little bit. Just a little, something to make it a little interesting. You can put a little more on there if you want. I wouldn't really overdo it, but it's up to you. If you want to go a little heavier with that, that's fine. And you can use a small crystal flash as well, but the UV is always my favorite. You want to go a little shorter, that's totally your call. Now we'll just come in with slush jelly here, just bring that off the core. Tie it in. I'm just going to cut that off so I can hand over hand this. I like to make sure that I've got the fibers all coming back the same. Get it packed on there. And you'll notice sometimes in that later season when these fish are really, you just bought through everything you got at them, and they're really not eating anything. And if you do get a fish, you pump it and they're full of that kind of slimy looking stuff in their stomach sample, their throat sample. It's Daphnia. Microorganisms there, just small like plankton is what they're on. And this fly here does imitate the little glob plankton. They kind of glob up and ball up on you down there. And that fly will get you on the business end. You'll catch a lot of fish with it. You hang it under a cork. A lot of guys fish it that way. You can fish it naked. Just let your line go straight down, find the zone they're kind of in, and you're in a fish. So you really can't get it much easier than that. I'm just going to finish this head off a little nicer. Put that red, or that fluorescent red or orange finish on that. We'll finish that, put a little UV resin on there, and that'll last you all day long. But try to get those mosquito hooks, my favorite. I'm going to use them on some of the other flies you'll see here a little later. Okay, there it is. Let's go to the next one.
The next fly on the bench is a proven performer on lakes as well as rivers. This is Brent's version of the girdle bug or yuck bug, as it has the hackle throughout the body. Brent found out about this one from a couple of other anglers. Let's get the materials to tie the fly. The fly is tied on a Daiichi 2220 streamer hook size 10. The shank is covered with .020 lead wire. The fly is wrapped with fluorescent red 6/0 thread. The tail is barred blood marabou in black and tan. The body is counter-wrapped with small brown wire. The body is seal brown tinsel chenille. The legs are brown grizzly rubber legs. The hackle is soft webby saddle hackle. Let's go to the bench with Brent.
Well, here we go with the next fly here, folks. This is going to be the girdle bug. I've got a size 10 2220 Daiichi streamer hook in here. Pretty going to lead my shank all the way up. You put a bead head on this if you like. I'm going to use my fluorescent red thread again, some 6/0 thread. We'll go over top, come in behind. Now some of these flies are, like say, are a little out of the ordinary, I would say. I used to really, when I was, especially when I was starting, and for many years, I'd fish flies that were really reminiscent of what was in the water, and I was fishing one of a lake that I was quite familiar with and usually fish quite well, and two guys showed up one day and really put a beating on me as far as numbers go. They were catching a lot of fish, so I did get the chance to chat with them and seen what they're using, and they had this strange little black bug on there with white legs kicking off the side. It was quite simple, just original girdle bug, but I'll tell you a version of that. I'm going to take some of this really nice barred black marabou here, tan, black and tan. You can get some of that if you want to kind of trick them out a little bit. Just take a little bit off the side. I was fishing that lake, so I would want a nice soft tail on it. Tie that in the back here. Put those girdle legs, and the girdle bug was actually, you know, that's where they got the legs from, was the rubber from the inside of a girdle. So hence the name. That's where it all started, with the rubber legs. Here we have some brown wire here, fairly strong. I just want it to kind of blend. I got lots of material going on here that I don't want to clash too much. Some to blend and some to stand out. You don't want to get too much going on. Then I'll bring in some of this seal brown chenille. This has got a little tinsel in the rib there, to make the end core, make it a little interesting. And then I'll put my legs on here. These are the grizzly legs. Now we got all colors and kinds of this rubber material available to us. So I'm just going to cut them in half. Put one at the back. About halfway here. Don't want to overdo it again with you get the legs to match up at the end. And just lash it down like so, and then you got them right where you want them. You can kind of do a little X pattern on there. Come to about a third way back. I'll do the same with my legs. Get them the same. Set them on top. That works really good for setting legs. I'll put an X, little X through them there so they kind of stick out where I want them. And take my thread to the front. Now I'll just simply come forward. Like some of these flies are just really, really easy to tie. You don't have to be a master salmon fly tyer to get these tied up. And the girdle bug is basically that right there. It's got a little, and then the yuck bug has got the hackle going through it. That's the kind I like to tie. It just adds a lot more to it, and I'm going to add that hackle right now. So it's a version of the girdle bug, and then I'll come in here with some sandy done. This is dry fly hackle here. As you can see, this little saddle, and if you go in the back, there's some really nice webby hackle here. That makes the perfect hackle for a fly like this. It's nice and soft. It really goes down and tapers down quite quickly, so I like to get the nice webby stuff started up here. Tie that in at the front. Put a half hitch on that. Now I'm going to take a couple turns ahead. I'm not going to do this with a spinning vise. I want to do this by hand. I want to make sure I don't come through anything or buy anything down. So I've got a lot of stuff going on here. Get our wire. And this is pretty strong wire. This 0.3 mil. A lot of reinforcement. You're not going to chew this one up. Come right to the front. Tie that wire off. Now this is a pretty strong wire. I'm not going to try that with my scissors. I'll bring in some little pliers, some side cutters. You can get those at any store pretty much. Get some of those just working pliers. And the thread head I'll finish off the top here. That little red thread always bounces a lot of light off it. I like fluorescent red. There's a good thick collar or whip finish on the head there. Then I would just bring in some solar res, bone dry on that. Anytime we can make our flies more durable, that's the time to do it. It's right on the vise. Bring in our torch and just cook that up. But that fluorescent head really bounce the light off it. And there it is, girdle bug, or actually a yuck bug. And a great pattern for you there, and it does work. Works well. I learned the hard way, but you know, always keep watching other anglers and see what they're doing or ask questions. And sometimes guys will share flies with you or so forth. A lot of guys out there that are very willing to help. So that's where all the good ideas come from, is all of us sharing our ideas. There's a brown one. I really like the color of that. Nice little tail. That swims really super in the water. Little legs kick along good. And great producer. So there it is.
The booby nymph has a recent following of lake anglers in North America. This is the original booby nymph that was created and fished in England with great success over many years. It was once banned from competitions. Brent still favors this fly and has had great success on the lake bottom with tough trout in the summer especially. Here are the materials for the fly. Brent is tying on a Gamakatsu Model S10 light wire hook in size 6. He is wrapping with fluorescent orange 6/0 thread. The eyes are styrofoam beads enclosed in netting used for floating salmon roe. The tail is orange marabou. The body is orange seal fur ribbed with gold oval tinsel.
Well, folks, here's the original booby nymph. When I was sent an email from a fellow from England when we just got our internet set up, he was telling me about this. He sent me a picture of this fly and told me how great it was, and it was actually outlawed there. So to me, it looked so phony. I thought it was just a hoax, so I never give it much more thought. But since then, I've become a believer. We had Paul Mariner come out fish with us. Paul was a captain of the Canadian fly fishing team there for a few years and fished with a lot of them guys in England. And he brought some out and was fishing them and doing quite well with them on our lakes. So originally, this comes with these are just styrofoam eyes or beads, and it comes with the netting. It's actually for floating your salmon roe. You go in the tackle section of a lot of those shops and you'll find that. Comes with the netting and everything in it. So I'll just get my fluorescent thread started on there. I'll grab a couple of these styrofoam balls. Get it encased in the netting. And then I'll tie it back. I'm using a pretty wide gape hook on this one. It's a Gamakatsu S10. It says the nymph hook, but it's actually very light wire. You want to make sure you use a light water hook so this fly will rise. And when I started fishing the fly, after I seen it how good it was. This was kind of a go-to fly for me when the fish were really stubborn and laying on the bottom of the lake, and they're just laying there resting. They're not eating. They're not interested in doing much. And I found going in with a full sink line, I fished it different than what a lot of guys are fishing boobies today. I'd take a full sink line, lay it on the bottom of the lake, and have a fairly long, softer tippet, and just let the fly rise in front of their nose. I'd give it a long pull and let it pause for probably 15-20 seconds before I pulled it again, and it would rise in front of their nose, and it saved the day many times. So here we're coming in with some nice bright orange marabou with nice long fibers. I'll tie that in here at the end. There's going to be some in here that will not swim. That's the main chunk. You can. I'm just tying this as the original pattern, and it worked. And so everybody's tying these boobies now with the Fritz, gel Fritz and so forth. And they work good too, they really do, and then they're stripping them in the shallow water. I just wanted to let you know there's another way of doing this, and it's worked very well for me. So you get the fish laying right on the bottom. When they're not feeding, they're going to be really just about impossible to catch. This fly will work. I'll tie in my ribbing material there, just what did I use there? There's Uni French and small oval, gold oval. Now I'll come in here with, this is some orange seal fur. This is the original recipe. I looked it up in some of my old books, and this is the original booby. And don't forget to use it, because it's as good as the day it was used many years ago. And to get a good taper body going there. And we'll just get our gold rib. Give some ribbing there. But I found many years ago, get the summer doldrums. Orange is a great color when nothing much is going on. Think orange, and I've done that, and it's paid off well. I've got another little orange palmer I'll show you sometime. We'll do that. There's another really good little bug with straight orange, and it worked great in the summer doldrums. So there it is, booby nymph. Just great fly, and think outside the box. You can use it the new style. There's a lot of videos out on that as well, but I just want to bring that up. Make sure you know how to fish that from the bottom, because it will save your day many times, or you'll have some good trips. Make sure you tie some extras up, because you'll probably be the only guy catching fish when that happens. And you're going to have lots of buddies come over, want to find out what you're using, and want to borrow a few. So thanks for watching. We'll catch you again on the next bug gear coming right up.
The Milky egg has been a long-time favorite of Brent's and has brought lots of trout as well as salmon to the net for him. He is adding the squirmy tail on this fly for extra movement. Here are the materials for the fly. Brent is using an owner mosquito size 4 hook. Flat white thread and 6/0 fluorescent orange thread for the head. The tail is white squirmy material with some white laser dub. The body is F&F slush jelly and prawn and safety orange colors. The fly is enveloped with Cineo's white laser dub.
Well, here we are with another great little funky bug, my Milky egg. I'm going to be tying this on a mosquito hook again from owner size 4. Very sharp, great hooking action with that. Come in here with some flat white thread, get started. I can tie this with just the Milky egg tail is what I normally do. Seems we're doing the funky bug edition here. We're going to add a little bit of a squirmy tail to this guy. Make sure we get that tied in the top. Make sure you use flat thread. Get this squirmy tied in. And that wants to follow the thread around the hook. Always does. Nasty little stuff. I'm going to tie that down really well over here. This squigglies looks weird, but they really add a lot to it. Let's just put a little of this Senyo's laser dub in there with it too. That's typically all I ever use, but I'll just dress this one up a little bit and just show you the little squirmies will always add a little action. And if you don't want to use the squirmy tail, just go with a little more of that Milky egg tail, okay? The body material, no questions. I just use that FNF from Europe. It comes from England, I believe. It's slush jelly. This one, the best color I like, prawn and safety orange. Get a two-color tone going on. It's really, really good. There's lots of frits. These are the guys, they make frits and that too. It's good material. But this slush jelly, I just love the way it looks in the water. I want to get about half the body turned, about 3 turns of that, 2 or 3 in there. I'm going to bring this orange. I want just make sure you get the core exposed. Come in the center. Just a nice little feature. Just put this orange, 1 turn of that in there. Okay. Tie it off. Now make sure, push it back, make sure it's tight. I'm going to tie this flat thread off. I use that basically just for the squirmy tail. Then I'll come in with my fluorescent red thread. I like to finish my flies with that a lot of times. It's a 6/0 red. Now this looks a little bit loose, of course, because I'm not done. I'll come in again with 2 turns. My slush jelly in the front. That makes a really good egg. This will work good for rainbows and salmon too. Fish this for a lot of different species. Drift that in there. That looks really good. And the veiling is the Senyo's laser dub. It's just great material. You come out straight with it. Make sure you preen these fibers. Get them so they're all laid out. It's kind of a wool with a lot of flash in it. I'm just going to lay that in. I'm going to get a soft loop here around the whole fly. Or get it in my fingers just so my soft loop comes down. And it comes right over top of the egg. That makes a beautiful veil. And that right there, I've caught countless fish with this one. It's been a lot of fun to drift. Never fish it weighted. I always fish either get my fly line, my sink tips, or whatever I'm using to get the fly down. Let the egg always float natural. Drift in there natural. You don't have to encase the whole one. You can go underneath it, whatever you like, but that right there is a great little bug. There it is, Milky egg. This one's got the squirmy little guy on the back, a little squirmy tail. Make sure you put head smit, or I put UV resin on there, a little bone dry, and Bob's your uncle. Another good one for you. We'll catch you again on the next fly.
The electric chicken is a really fun fly to fish. This fly has caught several species of saltwater and freshwater game fish. The colors are great and the movement drives fish mad. Here's the materials for the fly. The fly is tied on a Hanuk 480 jig hook size 8. There is a 3/16 fluorescent pink tungsten bead on the front. The fly is wrapped with 6/0 hot pink thread. The tail is white marabou with opal mirage flash and chrome silly legs. The body is chartreuse crystal chenille. The collar is chartreuse and hot pink spay hackle and has hot pink silly legs and shimmer fringe highlights.
Well, folks, here's about as funky a fly as I could come up with. I've used this electric chicken color and different types of flies, but make sure it's got a lot of movement. This is a fly that I've tied and fished in salt and fresh water. This color is just deadly. It's electric chicken color, and you'll find that a lot in tackle shops and that down south especially. And even you'll see it in other species, maybe for walleye and you name it. But we're going to be using a jig hook on this one. I'm going to fish this for smaller fish, maybe trout and so forth, or salmon even. Be a Hannock size 8 jig hook there, really nice sharp hook. We're going to put an extra heavy bead on it, tungsten bead, and a 3/16 inch. This one's really heavy. It'll really got a lot of movement, and that's what we're going for. Then I'm coming in, I want some really nice soft hackle or tailing fibers here, something that'll really breathe. There's really nice soft marabou right there. That's what we want. Get our nice tail in there. Make sure you go reach for that stem. There's a stem in here somewhere. Just clip that little tip out. That'll impede it. It doesn't swim real good. Okay, now we'll tie this all down on the shank at a nice level. Come in behind. There we go. Now we'll bring in some of our silly legs. These are silver. And legs really swim good, as you know. Bring it out to the edge. Those really add a lot to the pattern, no question. And then I'll come in with some, this is my chartreuse crystal flash for the body, or not crystal flash, chenille, ice chenille, whatever you want to call it. Take about a few good turns in there, a little coloration under that. Electric chicken is just, I've had so much fun with that color. It looked pretty weird, so I tied some flies up that way, and I started fishing it in the salt down there, and I'll tell you, there was just about anything will eat it. Such a good color. I don't know, they just drive them nuts for some reason. Okay, now I want to come in with some, the color we want movement again, but we're going to take some spay hackle. This is nice and short. It's selected just for basically nice short little collars. I'm going to cut it in just where I've got a little bit of nice stem on it, bit of still pretty thick. Just I can turn it around the shank, the hook, what I want it to do, but I want it to stick the fibers out. Get that tied on again. We'll get a couple turns of the chartreuse. There we go. That'll really breathe well. That's the way to tie the marabou on. Make sure you leave that. That's a pretty weak quill right there. Even the stronger ones here are a little bit. You can see what's a little bit stronger here. Just cut it down and tie it in about right there where it's a little bit thicker, and then you got a lot of support there for that marabou, and it really breathes well in the water. Okay, now I should have some pink around here somewhere. The same hackle. Marabou here again. And I'm going to get a few turns of that on front. Here's some longer. This is a smaller jig, so I'm going to go there a little bit, something a little bit shorter. It's not a lot shorter, but a little bit. Going to envelope around the chartreuse will really show up good underneath. Got a couple turns. Not too much. You know what? You want to make sure that that chartreuse is peeking out. I don't want it all pink. But this is really going to swim really well. It's going to kick in the water. I'm going to bring in a little bit of flash here, some polar flash on the bottom. And if you can get your hands on some of this other, I want to show you some really cool stuff. Here's some minnowback shimmer fringe. And if you can see the colorations in that, how that bounces light off it, I'm going to put some of that on the top. Now remember, when you're tying jigs, everything's upside down. Okay, that's how it's going to ride, okay? So when I say top, that means tie it in on the bottom, if that makes sense. And then just get a little bit of that around. That'll still very soft, it's going to breathe, but boy, that shimmer fringe in the water is really, really nice. So all we need to do to get this fly kicking a little more is I'm going to grab a couple pink legs. We're throwing the kitchen sink at them, but I'll tell you this, these colors are really, really nice. Now I want these on each side. There it is. I got to make sure I find out. You got to watch where you put them jigs. Sometimes they'll sneak up and bite you because you got them upside down, and you don't want to be doing that with these sharp jig hooks. I'm going to make sure that rubber gets on each side. They're split. There's nothing tied together there. I'm going to leave them quite long. Okay, that's good. And then I'll bring in my whip finish tool. Got my pink thread. I just hold that back as a whip finish. Cut everything out of the way. And there we go. Electric chicken jig. And this thing, I can't tell you how much fun it is fishing this. It'll dart around. It'll be pulsating. It'll be kicking those legs. It's got just beautiful colorations to it. One of my favorites. Absolutely one of my favorites. And don't be afraid to throw that at anything you're looking at. Tie it big, tie it for pike. They'll eat it. Like, they'll just be all over this. It's like candy. It's like crack. All right. Thanks for watching.
We would like to thank Brent for sharing these funky bugs with us. We hope you get the chance to fish these creatures this season. Thank you for watching today's video. We welcome any comments or suggestions for future videos. Make sure to check our website or YouTube for many more fly tying demos and fishing shows. If you're not a member, please sign up for some great perks. We also have some exclusive flies and products available at our online store. See you soon.